Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City of Kingston Planning Board meeting. My name is Suzanne Cahill. I am the Planning Director for the City of Kingston. Before we begin the meeting, I just want to go over a few quick announcements for everyone. I do ask that if you have a cell phone on you, would you please put it on silent so that it does not interrupt the meeting. Secondly, if you have a conversation that is not with the planning board itself, then we just ask that you please take it outside of the room. Council chambers are available, and there's a second conference room on the opposite side of the chambers. Restrooms are through the chambers. Men's would be to the left and women's to the right. If we do have an emergency, we ask that you please use the stairs and not the elevator. If you need assistance, please ask and we'll help you. I want everyone to please be aware that the meeting is being live streamed and it is also being recorded. So I want you to be cognizant of that. And please respect others if they are speaking. With that, I'm going to open the meeting at 6:05 p.m. and I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Platt to introduce himself and board members and others.
Thank you, Sue. Going along with introductions, my name is Wayne Platt. We also have members Charles Palato, Matt Gillis, Vince Archer, Sage Newkirk, Andrew Harris, and Kyra Grundig. You've already met Suzanne Cahill, the planning director. We also have Kyla D-Day, the assistant planner, and Alderwoman Katz is the common council liaison to the planning board. Before we get going on the agenda, I know a number of folks are here tonight for item number 5, which is 73 to 75 Furnace Street. We do have it under new business. Nothing is going to be voted on tonight, resolved, so the board will be voting tonight whether to pursue this as a public hearing, which would take place at subsequent meetings. I think that will happen. So, like I said, I know a lot of folks are here tonight about that. So if you could just hold off until the next meeting when the public hearing does become a thing, we'll certainly allow everybody and anybody to have their comments, so and address the board. So with that, I'm going to move on to item number 1 is the adoption of the March 16th, 2026 planning board meeting minutes. Everybody has had an opportunity to take a look at them. Any additions, deletions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion that we approve them. Do I have a second? Matt Gillis with a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, public hearings. Item number 2 is 36 Foxhole Avenue and number 388 Hasbrook Avenue. It's the lot line revision of the lands of S&S RE LLC. Section block and lot is 56.26-5-44. Seeker determination, Ward 9, Transect Zone T5 Act. S&S RE LLC is the applicant owner. Is there anybody besides the applicant owner wishing to speak on item number 2? Okay. Is the applicant here? Yeah, come on up. Right at the head of the table there. Are those chairs okay over there to use, or the ones in the back?
Yeah, the black ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you want to pull, you want both of you to come up?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Look at draw straws over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess I'll just.
Well,
you both are welcome to come up there yourselves. Welcome. Can you state your name for the record, please? Can you state your name for the record?
I'm Samantha Moranville.
Okay, welcome. All right, we have a depiction behind you there. And if you just go ahead and tell us what your plans are.
Oh, okay, so, we own the bike shop, right?
You
Right
can
over there?
stand up if you want to. If it's easier to stand up rather than twist and just point to the thing, you're fine to do that.
Okay. I have yard work knee, so I might stay seated. Okay, so, we own the bike shop right over here on the corner of Foxhall and Hasbrook, some of you know that. And then, the little pink house that's adjacent to it, we also own that. And, it's got, it's a small house with a pretty big lot, and the lot extends, straight off the back of the house. And, having been the person in charge of maintaining it, it's extremely hard to maintain because it's big. And you can't drive back there. It's like one of those houses that they built out almost exactly to the property line. So it's kind of wasted space, and we could definitely make use of it for the shop. And eventually there is an apartment in that building, which is presently unoccupied, but we're working on that in the next year. So it would be additional parking for tenants of the building, us, potentially customers, maybe even somebody else in the neighborhood. So we felt it just made the most sense to just add it to the commercial property. And then eventually, we'll sell the pink house to a single, family homeowner. And we just wanted to do that, get this out of the way so before we move on with any sale of that property.
So right now, there's no parking for the house. Is there any plan to allow the house occupants to use the parking as well?
The house does have parking. There's a driveway in the front.
In the front?
Yeah, you can fit about 2 cars.
Oh,
You could fit 2.
Okay,
Mhm.
right. Okay.
But as far as letting someone use it, I mean, yeah, as long as we're the ones who own the commercial property, of course, what would happen one day when we retire, who knows, but yeah, but immediately, yeah, that wouldn't be a problem.
Are you saying that because we're looking to maybe if there's a parking gonna happen there, that we would have something in the deeds to address
But
it?
if there's currently parking for 2 vehicles, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. All right, there's a shed on there that isn't, what you're gonna have that removed or
Yeah.
into one side or the other, is that?
We're just gonna take it off.
Okay.
So the shed would have to be actually moved prior to the chairman signing the subdivision map. And allowing it to be filed, so that
Okay.
shed will have to be demolished first.
Okay,
That can be done, on the interim.
okay,
A couple other things, I just want to make a note of. This will have to be converted to a formal survey, full survey map by the licensed land surveyor, and title subdivision will give you all the information. But then that will be the final map that gets submitted for signatures. You will need to sign the map prior to the chairman signing it, and we'll give you the boxes that you need to put, that your surveyor will have to put on the final plat, okay?
okay,
The site plan for developing the parking area, that will probably be a minor site plan. The difference being that a minor site plan is an administrative review that does not come to the full planning board. It is handled by agencies within the city of Kingston, planning office, building department, engineering, that kind of thing. So we'll need to do that down the road after the subdivision. We'll get together with you before you actually construct it. You need to go through that process.
okay, it's probably gonna be years before we can see that. But yeah, but that makes sense. But what you're saying is that we would do all the revisions and that would all be formalized first. And then you're saying before we go down there and start
Right.
shoveling in, we would come back and take that step. That makes perfect sense.
Those are the things that are jumping out at you.
For me,
Any questions from the board?
What it looks like a logical adjustment.
Yeah. Under seeker, it is a type 2 action, so no further review of the board is required for that. At this time, I'll make a motion that we approve item number 2, and Sue has the conditions and board policies listed.
Right, so board policy 6, the formal survey will be submitted with the elements of a final subdivision plat, which will be provided by staff to the applicant. The shed will be demolished, which is encroaching across the property line prior to the chairman's signature. A site plan will be filed in the future prior to any construction of off-street parking area. And we will need 1 Mylar, 5 paper copies, and result parcel descriptions as well. Give it all to you in a letter.
Oh, okay, and we're looking for 2 surveys, correct? So a new one for the house and a new one for. the
Correct,
commercial?
yeah,
Okay,
he can put it all on one map though.
Oh, okay.
On, like, just like he has here.
cool, okay.
And Kevin's gonna do that,
Yeah.
that work too?
Mhm.
All right, so with that, make a motion, I said we make a motion, we approve item number 2. Is there a second? Second by Chuck Palaco. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, well, that
Thank
was
you.
easy. Okay, all right, thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Take care. Okay, item number 3 is 693-701 Broadway, special permit renewal to operate a radio station. Section block and lot is 56.92-3-19.100. Seeker determination, Ward 4, Transect Zone T5MS. Radio Incorporation is the applicant owner. Is there anybody besides the applicant owner wishing to speak on item number 3? Okay. Jimmy Buck is here. Welcome.
Thank you.
How you been?
Good to see you. It's been a
Good.
year.
All right, when was the last time this was, before us?
I think 21, actually, we did the special permit in 21.
Oh, and it was like 5 years?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, now they are seeking, their lease is actually, or your license is actually a 10-year license. But in a communication which came in, over the weekend, which you have in your staff notes, they're requesting that the permit be extended to match the term of the license agreement, which would be 2030. At that time, if nothing changes, no circumstantial changes at all, then it would be strictly an administrative review. You wouldn't come back to the board. We would have a public hearing, but it would be reviewed administratively, and at that time, we would do probably the 10-year extension to match the full term of your license.
Great, yeah.
Right?
That
So,
makes sense.
I know you suggested June.
Mhm.
And what we're going to, what we're recommending is that it be August.
Okay,
And that's when we're doing all of the in-house, the administrative renewals, because the board does not meet in August, so that it allows us to have a little bit of flex time there.
okay,
And it'll also allow you to renew your license with a valid special permit in place. And then you'll have the license renewed hopefully by the time we get to the renewal of the special permit. I
great.
think it will.
That makes good sense. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah,
Overall, have there been any changes since since we were last together?
no.
Okay.
We stopped building stuff.
Good then? Good thing you're good. Okay. Any questions from the board? All good with the term to go to August of 2030?
Correct.
And see.
Under seeker, again, this is a type 2 action, so no further review of the board is required. At this time, we'll make a motion that we approve item number 4 for the term to expire on in August of 2030. All original conditions will be carried forward. Anything additional in there? you got?
No, that's it.
Okay. That's a motion. You got a second on that? Second by Matt Gillis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
No problem.
Wait. All right, item number 4 is 25 Frog Alley, a site plan for a mixed residential development with 40 residential units and 2 live work units. And a major waiver for alternative building. Section block of lot is 48.314-1-12. Second determination, Transect Zone B5N, Ward 2, GDC Kingston LLC is the applicant owner. Is there anybody besides the applicant or owner wishing to speak on item number 4? Thank you. Welcome, gentlemen. State your names for the record, please, again.
Hi, I'm Toby Lefkowitz. I'm the owner.
Alessandro Rampini, the marketplace.
All right, so we skipped a few months or a month between when we last saw you, right? You've got some changes to discuss tonight, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I've got a nice presentation for you too.
Yes.
You still seem enthusiastic about it, so that's good.
Well, the sun is out and it only snowed for 10 minutes today, so I guess we're good.
Is this the right, that
If
you
you,
want up there?
if you have the revision for architectural side, otherwise we can also show you on this one, that's fine. It's
I have a
not precise.
the rendering, so let me see here.
But we can show it on this one.
This one?
Yeah, that's okay. So if you can go forward. Okay, there we go. So the major change since the last time we presented this plan is it's actually in this area here. So where there were 4 townhomes, we heard a complaint from the planning board, some of the public, about the lack of parking and interior circulation, and especially for deliveries, for mail and servicing, et cetera, et cetera. And then we also finalized the location of the transformers with Central Hudson. So it was a mix of additional requirements that require removing 4 townhomes along. This is the north end of the other property against the pump station, and replace that with the one of the transformer, the 2 transformer, one in the main courtyard here and the other one in the corner over there, and 4 parking lots. There's 2 ADA accessible parking lots in there and 2 other parking, and that are going to be dedicated again to the public, and also with a strategy that we have yet to determine. Dedicate the part of that also for deliveries, so that there's a dedicated space for UPS trucks and whatnot to enter this lane and park there without occupying the fire lane along Frog Alley. That's the major change as far as the layout and design of the development. There were some other changes, mostly concerning the utilities. So conversation with the city about stormwater. There's the next one. We managed to do a survey of an existing manhole, which is in here. This is it's a sewer plan, but this stormwater, you can kind of see the stormwater situation here. So we found out there's actually a 36-inch pipe running underground, basically diagonally cutting the site, and accessible again from the manhole on the sewer pump, which is more than 24 inches that we were estimating. So actually has more capacity. So we feel confident that this is going to be able to actually catch all the water. We also did a calculation concerning the permeable surface versus impermeable surface, also part of the conversation with the city engineer. And compared to what the site currently is, which is mostly blacktop asphalt, we're actually reducing the permeable surface by about 20%, going from 19% to 44% of the development. So again, we're confident that we can capture all the water with the system that is in place, and with this reduction of the impermeable surface. At the same time, again, we develop the full utilities site plan with utilities. So you can see on this diagram in this plan here, the sewer plan, the electrical plan, again with the new consideration with the location of the transformers that Central Hudson requested, and again the stormwater and drinking water also. All with the proper setback, proper requirement. We work with the city engineer, who also provided the correct specification for all the pumps and mechanical equipment that is needed. We recently confirmed the location of the main access point for public water. I'm here with the manhole that is actually that can be that is drivable, so it's safe also for those which is fire access. And again, laid out everything on the side there, so it works with these utilities.
And with the changes that you've illustrated here,
Mhm.
you've had consultations with the fire department, right? And their fire chief, Chris Ray, you're satisfied with
Yes.
everything here?
Major life sentence. Yeah.
They've actually we've been working with them and other city agencies, in addition to the fire department, who they finalized the comment today. And that was just a question about the durability of the pavers that are in the open air patio, just to make sure that they would be able to support one of the ambulance buses. So they've confirmed that, and that was really the last kind of piece that the fire department was looking for. I will mention that there are mountable curbs here. They are not actual curb cuts for access. They're mountable curbs. So that will hopefully deter other traffic from going into the areas where we're really not looking for vehicle traffic to go in on a normal basis.
Yes.
With the water department, they've just likewise have resubmitted drawings based on water department comments. Water department has signed off on their end, with just the expectation that they continue to have that communication as they get into the construction phase of development, so that they're connecting and doing everything according to plan. With the city engineer, he reviewed the final plans that were submitted, gave us a list of comments on Friday, which have been posted. All of these are posted as well. And I did have a conversation with him after that, because he wasn't available today. But he did agree that they could be conditions of approval, and that the applicant would be able to work with him subsequent to a conditional approval to satisfy all of the comments that he wants to see additional information on for the sewer and the water, stormwater. And I think that covers all. The urban forester. They've also had with their landscape design professional, they've had multiple comments and discussions with the urban forester. All of the plant species and the layout have been reviewed and are in accordance with our code. So that has all been satisfied as well. So they've really done a lot of work since you saw them last and come up with, I think, a really great plan.
So the affordable housing component, did there have to be a recalculation done based on this amended?
No, what you have in your notes is an updated calculation, and we've gone over the calculation with the applicants. They have now with 42 units, it's a requirement of them to have 10% affordable and 5% workforce. So that works out to 4 affordable, because you use the rounding up and down method, and 2 workforce. They also are, so that's 6. They're also required, because they're receiving county funding from the housing program, they're required another 6 units, 5 of them affordable and 1 workforce. The cities are required to be deed restricted by covenant in perpetuity of the project being residentially occupied. The counties are not. And there's a distinction. I mentioned that because when we are going to be calculating the assessment of the payment in lieu of parkland fee, affordable units are technically exempt if they follow the city's code. So because the counties are not dedicated in perpetuity, we can't count those into, they will still count towards that park payment. So with the park payment, the first 7 units are exempt. And then the 6 units that are going to be deed restricted will be exempt, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but the calculations are in there. When we get to that, you'll be assessing that fee.
We can move on to that. That's sure the payment from Renewal Parkland.
If you want to go back to the waiver too. But so, yeah, so with what it works out to be is that, 32 minus 7 is 35, and then you would take off. No, that can't be right. I did this wrong.
I have 23, but I can't find in my notes where that came from. Let me see.
So 42 minus 7 would be 35, and then we take off 6, which is the 29. The 23 would be if the 6
That's right.
units of the county were deeded in perpetuity, which they are only required to be kept affordable for a certain amount of time. If you were to put them into a deed restricted covenant for the life of the project, we could exempt those as well. That's something that you would have to commit to.
So the 6 that you're talking about, that would be
The 6 are
subtracted out of
are
4 units at 80% and the 2 units at 120?
correct.
Okay.
I think that's why we only had 4. I don't think we counted workforce. The Wellington code does and.
But it is 6, we're subtracting 6 from that.
Yeah, you're thinking, take the workforce.
It was worded that way, but you can double.
I will double check that. But I wanted to think on the new code.
I can look it up while you're in my puppet. If you wanna talk about the waiver. we can-
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Brett, did you find something?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the major waiver request is for the new building type. And it's being considered identified as a row house court. I mean, from the first meeting we had when you were describing how this, the building styles that you were having, that you were gonna have to rise this project. I think it was, you found it the board was very receptive to your, saying that it had to do with our Dutch heritage, right? You were getting some elements of architecture from Holland, right? And, so, I mean, that's, I like that. And you've also incorporated other components into this from other transects, right?
That's right. Yeah, the intention with this request is that we take what the city has already set forth and just adjust a little bit to meet the conditions of the site. Because of the size, because of the location, there are certain things that we wanted to modify, but there's nothing materially different here where we're asking for significantly more density for building types that aren't called for in the code.
Yeah. And I also like it how the courtyards are, and let's say they're incentivizing or encouraging people to come out of their units, congregate. And it's almost like a small community there.
That's the biggest influence of the Dutch heritage. The architecture we're taking from Kingston, we're taking from Dutch context as well, but the cottage courts, they're called hofjes, and it's just amazing when they're smaller, very cute, charming cottages, and you stack them together and it creates these really wonderful communities that people just want to say hi to their neighbors. They want to welcome them in. They want to talk over gardening or what have you.
Yeah. So for me, all the things we just talked about, and there's other components of it that are attractive to me too, but the elements we just talked about really make it easy for me to feel comfortable to grant the major waiver. So, I mean, I can open it up to the rest of the board to see how they feel. There's a walkable community there. It's an attractive space, I think.
Thank you.
You know, I don't know how the rest of the board feels with, but we're gonna have to vote on this part of our, we have the waiver form, and it's also gonna be, whatever we decide is gonna be incorporated into the resolution too, so.
I think it's well thought out and a lot of things are taken into consideration. And I think that that is very solution forward thinking when we have a situation where so many people need housing. So we need to be innovative and we need to think of different ways to house people that fits with the city's history. So it's just nice to see that much effort was put into something for the community and the needs of the community. And we really worked through this for a long time. Had a lot of time and you guys really took to heart and listened to what the neighbors were saying and added the additional parking, which is not required, which I think is really good. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Paige?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think there's really no fundamental change other than taking the yards from behind the houses and putting them in front of the houses. Everything else they kind of stuck with falls within our code already. They didn't, want to blow out any heights or widths or anything like that. So for me, it's a yes. It just kind of brings the community forward rather than having all of their space behind them.
I concur with what has been said. I like the idea that everything up there is walkable. They've got the people move in there. Everything will be fine, be able to stay there and
It's kind of inviting people to come out of their houses, like I said, to, set like a small sense of community there. Right? Is that what you're trying to say, though?
Yeah, and there's so many great things going on in Uptown that we want more people to be able to benefit from them and to walk to the grocery store or to restaurants or to cafes or whatever it is. And we think that this program will make them feel comfortable enough to do that, as opposed to being 20 stories up in an apartment building or having to drive 10 minutes away. They feel like this is a part of their backyard.
Vince?
I concur with it. I mean, it's a lot more in terms of what the uptown shops and down in the plaza for groceries. I mean, it's really close and convenient. They can design it out like it's pops right out.
Andrew?
I'm really having anything to add that has already been said.
Yeah.
Yeah, bottom line, this does everything that the new zoning code allows for. So that's a little bit T. I was not part of the discussions for the meeting, the parking, but that's my only concern because Broad Valley is tight. There's no on-street parking on Schwenk unless you're the old Spectrum lots and things like that. That can't be.
Right.
So parking is my only concern.
Do you want to talk about your parking, work that you did? You did 2 separate, studies. You had Labella do one and you had done an earlier one. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I won't say the exact number just so we don't have to put it in front of you. I don't want to commit to anything that I can't. But we were pleasantly surprised the parking bans weren't as strong as we thought they might have been initially, which gave us comfort as the owners to move forward with a limited parking program as opposed to going 1-to-1. It's one of those things where there aren't spaces on Frog Alley. It's tough on Schwenk, but if you go 2 blocks away, you can find some spaces. And the demands of people who are living on the property change throughout the day. So they might not be there. There might be lots that they can park in overnight or on the street. In some places, certain municipal lots, they might not even need to have their cars in the street at 12 o'clock there. So the parking studies came back, and without saying the exact numbers, because I just again don't want to commit to it, we felt comfortable enough to move forward with our plan. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we can hold this building full. And if the market came back to us and said, this doesn't make any sense, we would revise and take stock of that.
I will say that one of the things we initially had a little bit of a concern because Obviously with the fire department directly across the street, it is very restricted there, for a lot of the Frog Alley Street segment. And in addition to that, the other parking also has restricted hours on Frog Alley. So those two things together made it a little bit like questionable on, how would you accommodate a handicapped individual? Or how, what about a delivery? What about a service call? What about, just moving in, moving out kind of activities? So that's why they went back and looked at the plan and did provide for a couple of handicap parking spaces. And then a couple extra just for whatever might be needed during the course of the general day. So I think that was a positive move on their part. I know that parking, there was a parking concern raised by one of the businesses in close proximity, and the county also raised some questions, the county planning board. So I think that they've done their due diligence in terms of their studies that they did, and they had Labella do for them as well as a follow-up.
Yeah, and the one thing I would add is that it's not exactly equivalent, but we do have a lot of bicycle parking called out on the plan. So we have dedicated bike stalls, we have a couple of covered stalls as well. More and more people are taking e-bikes, not cars. Obviously, it's different in the winter, but we think given the proximity to everything else in Uptown, the couple of spaces that we have, the space for deliveries, and the fact that more and more people do want to have a walkable lifestyle with maybe a bike or access to public transportation, we feel pretty comfortable there.
Okay.
Some of the other components of our notes here, so are they just, these probably have been here meeting to meeting, do we need to address anything? I mean, sidewalks,
Well, if they're all gonna be in your final resolution,
Okay.
Obviously.
but these are all,
Offsite, there are some offsite improvements that are being made. There is quite a large tree that is along the sidewalk that will need to be removed, so that's gonna be required to go through the tree commission. But they're also replanting a lot of new trees on and off the site. They'll be redoing all the sidewalks along Frog Alley, so they will be corrected, to ADA and POAG standards, which is a nice move. The refuse has been moved back a little, so it's not close to the street, but and it'll be fully enclosed in a manner that is similar to the new construction, so it'll blend, seamlessly, hopefully.
It's a break.
With, as good as refuse can blend, right? And, one of the things we had talked about was, for the occupancy, you can't demand that they be, city residents, but that, they try and work with, the local community to get give a preference for some existing city residents to reside here. One thing that we haven't quite gotten yet is the school sign off, so that will be a condition. We'll work with the school district. For a project this size, I wouldn't anticipate that it's going to have an impact, particularly the design of it. It's not really a project that's going to be something that would attract family.
is that some communication that comes from your office or this?
It typically goes from the applicant, and we assist the applicant if there's a need, so we'll work on that. So that's, I'm pretty comfortable that we can do a condition. The performance bond, there will be,
We have to, no, not right now.
there will be a required performance bond for all site improvements on this project, as with several of the projects that you do. We do not have the detailed cost estimate completed yet. Theoretically, that can't be really completed until all of the sign-offs, particularly city engineer, has finished his stormwater and sanitary sewer review. So, in lieu of that, what we would ask the planning board for is that to allow staff to work with the applicants. We've given them formats to use to put that together. Once they do, we'll review it with the city engineer. We'll take that amount that he approves and add on a 10% contingency, which is our standard. And then we'll work with them to get the bond, and the bond will need to be in place before any building permits are issued. So we did look in the code, and it is affordable housing only. The payment in lieu of would include a reduction if you don't, it's a payment in lieu of affordable and workforce housing. So that is not something that you're looking to do because you're gonna be providing
That's
it.
right.
So it's only the affordable. So that first number would be the.
So it's 4 instead of 6.
Yes. So the number in the staff notes is correct, and the number in the drafted resolution that received has to be amended. So it would be a payment in lieu of would be 93,000. So it'd be 31 units assessed at the 3,000. Okay.
Would the calculation be part of the proceeding?
I'm sorry?
Would the exact calculation be part of the proceeding?
Yes.
Okay.
That's true.
You're going to checklist. Where you can put it.
No, I'd open the floor up to the board members to ask if you have any questions, comments. I know we've looked at the plans on multiple occasions. You've also had the opportunity to look at it, within the Municipal website. Do you have any questions for the applicants, any comments, any further concerns? Mm-hmm. Okay,
Can
all right.
you do the Ulster County Planning Board? on that?
You can review them, they are in the thing too, but yes, talk about them and, yep.
So I'm moving to the required modification that the planning board should require more analysis regarding the parking demand associated with the site. Also how traffic and what have you will be handled so that it does not interfere with the Kingston Fire Department's ability to conduct emergency responses as they enter and exit their property on the east side of Frog Alley. I know that you folks you've acknowledged, and the fire chief has acknowledged that those things have been taken care of as far as, the concerns of the city and the fire department. So the fact you've added more, parking to here, I think that this required modification has been addressed. Personally, I don't have the rest of the board.
Was this written prior to them changing and adding the parking spaces?
Yeah, it was written prior to the second traffic study, so that's basically.
That's right. We did the second traffic study after this.
As long as it's not a safety issue, it falls within the code. We don't have, I agree with what Matt had said earlier, but I know you weren't here for that one conversation, but that's like the position that I think that we're gonna find over and over. Projects like this, is that it's not, we are following through on the code, and we're fortunate enough to have applicants to pay extra money to have traffic studies done, to add things when they're not even required to, so. Yeah.
Any comments? Okay,
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
all right.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go
for a while, papers now.
Yeah.
16
That was current.
checklist.
Well,
When you bring water. Yes. It's been a water.
I'm listening.
She has to bring her water.
I did, I brought some.
Just get there.
And the people who don't want to talk are like. So, performance bond, that's all been handled, but that's all, everything's good with engineers. That'll be in the resolution as well. So I just want to just make that off.
I talked about that a few minutes ago. The last thing I think is towards the end of your notes there is just to go through some points. We will be asking you to, consider making a secret determination this evening based on, the submitted form, as well as all of the additional information that has been provided through various reviews and comments and feedback. There are multiple points that we put into this. Example, one of the things, that they did do was that parking demand study. They did it in July of 25 and then followed up with an addendum in February of 26. And then they haven't made accommodation, as we've noted, on site. They've worked with the urban forester on the overall landscaping plan, made a hard effort to provide as much native species, and appropriately located plantings to serve the site and assist with stormwater. They've engaged a historic cultural services to undertake the appropriate survey work for archaeological and historic resources. There are certain comments and recommendations within those that will be required to be followed. When construction takes place, they work with the fire department to provide safe and accessible emergency access. They're working to provide handicap accommodations for pedestrian movements and ADA compliance. Overall, they've reduced the pervious or impervious surfaces to allow for more stormwater to be retained and kept on site, thus removing that off site. They know that they will need to obtain a floodplain permit because they are within the flood zone A. SHPO has reviewed this and issued a no impact letter, and all the public comments as well have been considered. So those things all in mind, we did look at the parts 2 and 3, which you should have in your packets there, and there is a resolution as well in your packet for the seeker. So you want to go through part 2 and part 3.
Do you want to do the waiver checklist first, or do you want to do it first? You read out of it? Maybe read out of it.
Yeah.
Like if they're not thinking you can do, I think in my,
It's all in one.
say after that, right? And we will say after.
Yep.
Yeah. We have to go over each one item by item and.
You should.
More on
You want to check 2?
Yeah.
We're starting on part 2, right? We don't just.
Yes.
All right. All right, so part 2 of the short environmental assessment form, which is the impact assessment. Item 1, it will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? And I'm saying that no or small impact may occur.
Agreed.
We agree. 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? And I'm saying moderate to large impact may occur.
Agreed.
Great. 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? I'm saying no or small impact may occur. Agreed. 4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area or CEA? I'm showing no or small impact may occur. Good. 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? I'm saying moderate to large impact may occur.
Agreed.
6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? I'm saying no or small impact may occur.
Agreed.
7, will the proposed action impact existing A, public/private water supplies? I'm saying no or small impact may occur.
Agreed.
B, public/private wastewater treatment utilities. I'm saying no or small impact may occur.
Agreed.
8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? I'm saying moderate to large impact may occur.
Agreed.
Agree. 9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, examples being wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? I'm saying no or small impact may occur.
Agreed.
10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? I'm saying moderate to large impact may occur.
Agreed.
11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? I'm saying no or small impact may occur.
Agreed.
Okay. Just want to do that. Number 2.
Yeah.
Yes, that's really that.
Says, well, all of the large.
Exactly.
All
All right, short environmental assessment form, part 3, determination of significance. Number 2, the project will result in a moderate change in the use and intensity of the land. The property was previously used as a laundromat that was demolished and has been vacant land for a number of years. The proposal to add 40 residential units and 2 live work units falls within the allowed densities in the zoning code for this transect district. The board and city agencies reviewed stormwater, utilities, fire protection, and site improvements. Impacts were mitigated through a series of comments and revisions to the plan, including the addition of more impervious surfaces, complying with utility recommendations from the water department and the city engineer, the inclusion of native landscaping in compliance with the zoning code, the reduction in the number of buildings to accommodate some parking and an area for deliveries on site, widening access lanes to address fire department and emergency response accessibility, and relocation of existing on-site stormwater infrastructure and easements. Number 5, impact on existing traffic and existing infrastructure. The project is designed on a model that has successfully operated outside of the US, but there are similar typologies within larger metropolitan areas. The location of the project is in proximity to Trailways Bus Depot, within walkable distance of businesses that provide goods and services. It's being designed to promote walking and bicycle use and provides for accommodations thereof on site. In addition, they are aware of the proximity and restrictions of on-street parking due to the firehouse and limited hours of parking on the adjacent roadway. There are 4 spaces on site to accommodate, is this handicap?
Yes.
And deliveries, service business, etc. A study of the area and available parking in proximity was completed and the owners have made the decision that the population served will have their needs met. Number 8, impact of historic, archaeological, architectural, and aesthetic resources. Directly across from the project are the Low Bogardus ruins. The site has been managed and preserved by Friends of Historic Kingston. The new construction will not impact the site. The design being proposed will not be anything that will diminish the importance of the historic property. The existing site is being addressed archaeologically under the oversight of a professional cultural firm, and all digging and excavating is being monitored and recorded. State Historic Preservation Office has provided a no impact letter. Number 10, impact of flooding. The site is located within Zone A and all necessary precautions will be taken. A floodplain permit will be required through the Building Safety Division for new construction. So I'm saying we check the box. Number 2, we have determined based on the information analysis above and any supporting documentation that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts.
You read the resolution, then that's the resolution that's read, you go back and sign back, and the resolution.
Where is Schedule A going to be attached?
Schedule A will be attached to this document. No, we should have it there.
You read this resolution.
Speaker. The Schedule A is attached to both resolutions that you'll have tonight. And that is basically a listing of all of the documents, plans, documents, emails that have been considered as part of this review process. Just a comprehensive list with the most current updated stated.
Guys are gonna get some of this. All right, have before me resolution of the City of Kingston Planning Board adopting a determination of negative declaration of environmental significance for 25 Frog Alley, section block lot 56.124-1-12 under a coordinated secret process, 6 NYC RR Part 617. Whereas GBC Kingston LLC, the applicant, submitted plans along with the completed Part 1 of the Short Environmental Assessment Form, SEAF, to the City of Kingston Planning Board, in parens the board, to construct a mixed-use residential development and supporting infrastructure and improvements. And whereas the project is located on number 25 Frog Alley, SBL of 56.124-1-12, Kingston, New York. And whereas under the initial review, the board determined the action to be unlisted under seeker. However, both the applicant and the board agreed that a coordinated review was in the interest of all parties due to the scope of the proposal and number of agency reviews required. And whereas after receiving no objections, the planning board adopted a resolution dated December 8th, 2025, declaring themselves lead agency in the seeker review, and considered all documentation submitted to determine significance of the action on the environment in compliance with the New York State Environmental Conservation Law, seeker, and regulations promulgated thereunder, the regulations by the New York Department of Environmental Conservation, 6 NYC RR Part 617. And whereas in support of this project, the applicants have submitted plans, applications, and other supporting documents. All as posted to the municipal website and as defined under Schedule A, attached and made part of this resolution. Whereas the board opened a public hearing on December 8th, 2025, and which has remained open until April 20th, 2026. All comment received under the hearing in oral and written testimony has been fully considered. And whereas under routine circulation, the board has received comment, has reviewed and considered statements from the Ulster County Planning Board, the city engineer, Kingston Water Department, and Kingston Fire Department. And whereas the property is located within the FEMA adopted flood hazard area Zone A and Zone X, which will be required to obtain a floodplain permit, in advance of any work in compliance with section 405.27 of the City of Kingston zoning code. And whereas there is an existing storm sewer and easement located through the property, which will be relocated and mapped in accordance with recommendations from the City of Kingston engineer, Corporation Council, and the planning director. And whereas the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, SHPO, issued a no impact letter dated September 22nd, 2025. And whereas landscaping will be focused on native species and will comply with section 405.14K of the zoning code. And whereas the project will follow the recommendations of the Phase 1A literature search and sensitivity assessment and will complete the Phase 1B survey as outlined in the letter from the Hudson Cultural Services dated November 18, 2025. And whereas the findings and recommendations of all documents listed under Schedule A as applicable have been fully considered, along with the public comments and technical advice from other municipal agencies. And whereas the board has completed and attached Part 2 and 3 of the SEAF, now therefore be resolved that the City of Kingston Planning Board as follows. Section 1, that pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617, the City of Kingston Planning Board hereby renders a determination of negative environmental significance, recognizing all conditions as described within the document presented, and adopts the negative determination as final. Section 2, that all identified, involved, and interested agencies will be notified of the Kingston Planning Board determination of this decision. And Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Do I need to go to Schedule A to be anything else? Yes, at this time, we'll make a motion that we adopt this resolution. Do I have a second? Second by Sage. All in favor, Wayne Platt is a yes. Charles Pilato,
Yes.
Matthew Gillis,
Yes.
Vince Archer,
Yes.
Sage Newkirk.
Yes.
This is adopted. Okay, planning board waiver checklist. Section 405.12 is the transect to which property is located. The applicant has included a waiver request letter that clearly identifies and describes the waiver being proposed, accompanied by plans or other visual representations as applicable. That's a yes.
Agreed.
Waiting for that. In their letter, the applicant describes in detail why the waiver is needed and how the waiver request is consistent with the intent, design, and compatibility of the transect zone in which the project is located. Yes.
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 Will granting the waiver contribute to the realization of the overall intent of the transect zone and result in an improved project, which will be an attractive and durable contribution to the transect zone? Saying yes.
Yeah.
Support walkable neighborhoods and or mixed use centers. The project emulates the neighborhood context for how far the buildings relate to the sidewalk, how the facade is designed, and how the building interacts with the street. I'm saying yes.
Yes.
The project supports a green and resilient future by, for example, reducing vehicular miles traveled, providing green infrastructure and or street trees, and or including high quality usable open space. And yes.
Yes.
The project supports incremental development patterns in size and density and supports infill development or the reuse of existing buildings. Saying yes.
Yes.
The project supports the provision of the variety of housing types to support a range of income levels, age groups, and family units. Yes?
Yes.
The project specifies street design that is walkable and bikeable and will reinforce safe and comfortable environments for all users. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, who's next on those resolutions?
There we go.
You want to do this one?
And the third one is
Yeah.
the top. Resolution of the City of Kingston Planning Board approving site plan and required major waiver of building typology for 25 Prague Alley, Perens, SBL 48.314-1-12, Kingston, New York 12401. Whereas GBC Kingston LLC, Perens applicant, submitted applications, plans, and other supporting documentation to the City of Kingston Planning Board, Perens Board, for construction of 42 residential units consisting of 1 studio, 17 one-bedrooms, 18 two-bedroom, 4 three-bedrooms, and 2 live-work units. The proposal also includes a minor waiver for major waiver for a new building type under section 405.12.b.3, parens the action, and whereas the action is located at 25 Frog Alley, parens SBL 48.314-1-12 in the T5N neighborhood mixed-use transect zone in FEMA adopted flood hazard area zone A and zone X, adjacent to the Low Bogardus historic ruins and in proximity to the National Register Stockade Historic District. And whereas the board received the original application supporting documentation August 2025 with a major waiver request submitted in October 25, along with revised and supplemental information submitted over the course of the review, and whereas the board concluded a public hearing on December 8, 2025, which remains open until closed on April 20, 2026. And whereas the board has reviewed and considered comments from the city engineer, building safety division, city fire chief, Kingston Water Department, and the general public. And whereas all documentation outlined in Schedule A, review document listing, April 2026, and comments are made part of this review in their full form. And whereas the board determined the action to be unlisted under seeker, and upon mutual consent of the application development project underwent coordinated review process, with the planning board adopting a resolution on December 8, 2025, declaring lead agency status. And whereas pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617, the board adopted a negative declaration as final determination of non-significance by resolution dated April 20, 2026. And whereas the action is referred to Ulster County Planning Board, and any recommendations under referral number 2026-002 dated January 7, 2026, and now therefore be it resolved by the City of Kingston Planning Board as follows. Section 1. After thorough review and discussion of all documentation and public comment, reference Schedule A, the board hereby notes to approve the site plan to construct 42 residential units consisting of 1 studio, 17 one-bedroom, 18 two-bedroom, 4 three-bedroom units, and 2 live-work units, along with supporting infrastructure improvements at 25 Frog Alley with conditions as described in the following citations. Section 2, board hereby votes to approve a major waiver for a new building type known as Roadhouse Court, as proposed by the applicants with the following findings. The building type is specific to this location, and this parcel is located within a walkable mixed-use neighborhood with close proximity to public transportation and retail uses, and meets the intent of the underlying T5N transect to provide a variety of housing choices in small to large footprint, medium to high density building types, which reinforce the walkable nature of this neighborhood. Support neighborhood services, retail, and services uses adjacent to the zone, and support public transportation alternatives. The protocol for the Roadhouse Court is attached, Schedule B to this resolution. Section 3, approval shall include conditions as follows. Performance bond. Submitted of a detailed cost estimate of all site improvements for review and approval of the city engineer for purposes of defining the required performance bond amount for the action. Said bond will contain a standard 10% contingency, be in the form satisfactory to the city planning administrator and the corporation council, and shall be received prior to issuance of any building permits or site work being initiated. As-built drawings will be certified by a licensed engineer or suitable professional and provided to the planning office for all newly constructed and installed plan elements prior to any performance bond release or within 30 days of issuance of a certificate of compliance. A final certificate of occupancy will not be issued until as-built plans are submitted and accepted. Kingston Water Department sign off recognized and conditions as outlined in the email dated April 17, 2026 shall be adhered to. City engineer final sign off and satisfaction of all comments and issues as outlined under email dated April 17, 2026 shall be met prior to any permit issuance. Floodplain permit from the Director of Building Safety Division as the floodplain administrator. Kingston Fire Department sign off recognized with no internal EV bike charging unless specific building conditions are met and approved by KFD. Require confirmation that pavers used throughout, particularly the open air patio from the southern mountable curb, can support the weight of a typical ambulance bus, per ends 5 to 6 tons. Provide details of the paver installation and a specification of paver.
That has actually been accomplished, so you can use that second status and use the road because that was done today. You're satisfied, correct?
Okay. Board policies. The following board policies are hereby incorporated. Policy 1, stormwater compliance. Policy 2 and 2A, tree removal and replacement. Policy 3, 3A and 3B, as-built plans and performance bonds. Policy 4, 4A, lighting. Policy 6, affirmation of compliance with approved plans. Policy 7, approval timeframes. Policy 8, 8A, clerk of the works and project directory. Policy 9, survey markouts. Policy 10, signage guidelines. Policy 11, emptying of dumpsters. Policy 12, contact names updated. Policy 13, be safely on plans, utility contact. Policy 14, 14A, zoning data and legend. Policy 16, school district impact. Policy 16A, landlord registration completed. Policy 16B, affordable housing compliance. Policy 17, payment in lieu of parkland. Policy 18, noise ordinance compliance. Policy 20, carbon monoxide detectors. Policy 22, sidewalk standards. Policy 23, Knox box installation. Policy 24, acquire building permit in required timeframe. In lieu of Policy 5, the board requires a formal maintenance plan to be submitted to the planning and building departments to cover the regular and ongoing maintenance procedures to be followed for the paver sections and commit to the long-term functionality of permeability and stormwater management. In accordance with Board Policy 16, the applicants must secure a no impact letter from the district for the project. Refuse and recycling collection shall be by private hauler services. Final sign off of USPS for location and design of mail receptacles. Applicants shall work directly with engineering and Ulster County 911 to assign building numbers and identify all units for emergency responders to meet required standards. Sidewalks will need to be constructed in accordance with Chapter 358 of the City Code. The curb cuts will need to be raised where they are no longer being used and provide with mountable curbs, as shown on drawings, and the sidewalks will need to meet the ADA and ProAg standards for running slope, cross slope, and width. Landscaping will be in accordance with the landscape standards section of the code 405.14.k and will follow the recommendations of the city urban forester. Approval of the city tree commission for all tree removal / planting work to take place within the public right of way, Frog Alley. All work within the public right of way shall have permits issued by the Department of Public Works and carry appropriate insurance requirements. The project will follow the recommendations of Phase 1A literature search and sensitivity assessment and will complete the Phase 1B survey as outlined in the letter from Central Hudson Cultural Services dated November 18, 2025. Confirm with all plans, documents, and specifications as defined by attachment A, review documents dated April 20, 2026, unless otherwise noted herein. Copies of newly established final easement agreements for stormwater and new deeds shall be submitted to the planning department prior to issuance of any building permits. Section 4, inclusion of affordable housing shall be as follows. The City of Kingston FDC requirements, section 405.19. Project contains 42 units, 10% affordable equals 4 units at 80% AMI. 5% workforce equals 2 units at 120% AMI. 6 units must be deed restricted for the duration of the project, actively used for residential housing, and monitored in compliance with section 405.19 as written or amended going forward. Ulster County Housing Action Fund, 6 affordable units, 5 at 60% AMI, 1 at 80% AMI. It is understood that these are only deed restricted for a period of time as provided under the funding source and not in perpetuity. Section 5, payment in lieu of parkland. The board finds that the anticipated increase in population as defined by creating 42 residential units shall cause a need for continued upkeep and improvements to municipal park facilities which provide recreational opportunities for residents. The Recreational Trust Fund is utilized to help maintain existing and provide new amenities to contribute back to the city's parks and programs, which allows for the Recreation Department to continue to grow its recreational opportunities to meet the demands and community needs.
Is where the numbers have changed here, so I'm just gonna read the next 2 paragraphs.
Okay.
Because these are changed. The board acknowledges and finds that 4 affordable units deeded in perpetuity are exempt from the requisite parkland fee, along with the first 7 exempt units. The remaining 31 units shall be subject to a $3,000 per unit parkland fee accordingly to be placed into the Recreation Trust Fund. Therefore, the board hereby finds that a transit in lieu of parkland fee shall be assessed for this project in the amount of $93,000 and must be remitted to the city prior to the issuance of any permits for construction.
Okay, section 5. Ulster County Planning Board, UCPB referral, January 7, 2026. The board had reviewed the required recommendation and advisory comment of the UCPB, which are. I can read it, please. I don't know what's anywhere. The city planning board should require more analysis regarding the parking demand associated with the site, as well as the proposal's traffic and traffic safety related impacts. A traffic analysis for the development, as well as an accident analysis for both Schwenk and North Front Street intersections is recommended. The board should also consider a requirement that clearly defines how and where transitory access to the site will occur and ensure that it does not interfere with the Kingston Fire Department's ability to conduct emergency responses as they enter and exit their property on the east side of Frog Alley. Advisory. As noted, the city's zoning statute code they were missing half that. The statute does not require on-site parking. The applicant has developed a parking availability analysis, but has failed to include the facility's parking demand in its calculations and has not shown the impact of that demand on the available parking supply. Nothing in the submittal indicates that the private sites in the parking analysis are available for the residences of the project to use. Finally, the parking availability analysis is at odds with previous studies and the desires of the city of Kingston, as indicated in the RFP issued by the city that indicated a quote, severe lack of parking infrastructure, close quote, and the need to develop a multi-story parking garage. The city has indicated that parking demands exceed supply in this area, and in the case of the Kingstonian, has required the developer to meet not only its own demand, but also the additional public demand. During this review, we would urge the planning board to determine whether there is a parking shortage or surplus as indicated by this latest study. We note that this has cumulative impacts with several other developments proposed in the area, all of which generate parking demand. In the end, as with highway improvements, the last proposal should not be required to bear the brunt of any future parking improvements. The planning board has reviewed the traffic and parking analysis submitted by the applicants and has consulted with the Kingston Fire Chief regarding the project. It has been noted that there are other local businesses who also utilize the on-street parking in proximity to the site along with current parking restrictions. The applicants have submitted a modified plan to remove a portion of the building and provide on-site parking and have recognized that there are limited street parking resources. That considered, the applicants have expressed confidence that the project will support needed housing for those who do not require parking and rely on public transit and other multimodal needs of transit. The planning board thus votes to override the required modification of the UCPB and accept the advisory comment as submitted. Section 6, approval of the board does not eliminate the need of obtaining the appropriate permits and approvals from other boards, commissions, departments, and relevant agencies. Section 7, that this resolution shall take effect immediately.
You make the motion to adopt this,
Right, make a motion to adopt.
second on that, second by Chuck. Chuck? On favor, Wayne Platt is a yes. Carlos Colaco?
Yes.
Matthew Gillis?
Yes.
Vince Arthur?
Yes.
Dave Newkirk?
Yes.
It's adopted.
So.
We can dismiss them.
Yes. You'll get a copy.
Take up the road.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
We appreciate all the confidence you put in us and you award it. I do something beautiful here.
And I, the board appreciates the back and forth that we have to make this the best project that it's that's gonna make, so.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. So help was the.
Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I will be.
We'll be in touch.
Yes, no doubt.
All right, we are. Sign this one. That's true. Okay, and the new business. Item number 5 is 73-75 Furnace Street, site plan to demolish an existing building and construct a 12-unit residential multiplex with major waiver from ground finished floor required 8. That's supposed to be 18 feet.
Inches, ground finished floor, that's 18 inches.
Okay. Proposed 8 inches.
Right. It's a elevation.
Section block and lot is 56.92-8-42, secret determination, transect zone T4N-O, Ward 4, Joseph Hersey is the applicant, 73 Furnace Street LLC is the owner. Welcome.
Hey there.
Are you Joseph?
I am Joseph, yeah.
Welcome.
Hey there. So, I was at the board, I think it was in June last year, move July. And I initially proposed to take the building that was at the site before and convert it to 4 units. We got the approval, we started the demolition, and we realized that it might require a lot more restoration work than I thought it would, and it's much easier to demo the whole thing and start fresh. So, I mean, working with the city zoning code, I determined that the best use or a great use of the property would be to build 12 single family units. It's that's how it looks. It looks like a little house, not like a very large building. And I don't require any major variances except for a request to lower the building from 18 inches to 8 inches, which the project will move forward regardless of whether that's approved or not. But we just thought it's better for first floor, which would require handicap access. It makes it much easier for handicap access, and yeah, it's I invite you to continue looking at the pages over here.
Joseph, if you want me to pull up anything specific, but otherwise.
Oh, I think it's nothing specific that we have to look up. Conform with everything, but obviously, you know, before anyone else brings it up, I might as well bring it up. The neighbors weren't too excited about it, so we got a lot of complaints from our friendly neighbors that are not friendly to this project, that there might not be enough parking in the area. So I'll get started and explain what my rationale for proposing 12 units over here at first place. I wouldn't try to propose a project in the area that I think is not fit for the neighborhood. I personally have visited the site plenty of times during the day and at night, and I always found parking over there. I always found numerous parking spots over there, especially considering, I mean, aside for that block itself, being a pretty sparsely fronted block. There are only 5 buildings on that block facing Furnace Street. And I think, yeah, right over here, we have a little diagram of parking spots available before I mean, I don't have any diagram showing the buildings in front of Furnace Street, but I guess you have to take my word for it that there are only 5 over here. There are 23 available parking spaces, and that takes into consideration that, according to Kingston zoning law, it's each parking space is supposed to be 20 feet long.
I just want to be clear, because some people may have looked at the Nicolab site. This document came in along with an explanation this afternoon, so it was just recently uploaded, so that you might not have seen this if you're looking at it and wondering why it wasn't something you had seen. It just went up literally late this afternoon. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is, I mean, based on my personal analysis, and I invite anyone to go and confirm this with me, but this is, there are 23 spots that start at the sign factory, which is at the end of Furnace, and go all the way down to Liberty Street. And there are 5 buildings, I should say, that front Furnace Street. 3 of them have driveways. I should say, yeah, 3 of them have driveways, 2 of them don't. One of them is a restaurant that's not in use right now. I don't know what's going to happen with it eventually, and the other one is my building. Now, in addition to that, if we go to the next slide, we could see this white text is on top of the building of the library, which is the 73 Furnace is up there in the top left corner. There are additionally 15 parking spots on this block over here. There's only 2 buildings that front that block. One of those buildings have multiple parking spots associated with them, garages and driveways, the other one doesn't. So overall, and aside from that, there are more spots around the library, which the library itself has self-contained parking, so we don't have to worry about the street parking being used for the library. So overall, there's plenty of parking on Furnace Street and in the vicinity around Furnace Street. Now, obviously, there are neighbors that do use Furnace Street for parking from other blocks, and if you look at a night, you'll see some cars over there. I personally went there last night and counted 13 available parking spots, but I think that this building, even without putting any private parking in the back, which we have discussed, that may or may not be feasible. We should still have plenty of parking over here. But I would approach the board to see if they, you know, agree with that or not. And if there are any other questions, feel free to ask.
Are you going to be living there?
No,
Okay, you're gonna have a site manager?
yes, I mean, I'm gonna self-manage it. I'm gonna have people on site that take care of, the work that's been done on day basis.
Are you gonna be formulating a management plan that's gonna incorporate who you're gonna have responsible for when, you know, in your absence? Is it?
If that's a requirement, I could form the plan. That's not a problem. It's 12 units. It's not, it's sort of at that, I guess, at the border of needing, a more formal management plan versus something that's self-managed. But it doesn't plan self-managing and having a plan to be able to manage it even in my efforts. I estimate that I'll need about, 5 to 6 hours of weekly work to manage the building.
Ward 4 is a very sensitive area, okay? I think it would behoove you to have a management plan that identifies somebody who's responsible for, in your absence, to handle situations that may arise.
That can be done.
I think that if you're gonna be doing your management plan, then, you should just include regular site maintenance, like, you know, snow shoveling, snow removal, who's responsible for taking garbage out, garbage day, who's responsible for bringing it back, that kind of stuff, just the daily activities as well, just incorporate that into that
Yeah.
plan as well.
The layout of each of the units, do you have a floor plan?
I do have a floor plan with the layouts. The layouts are still gonna need some massaging. We're not completely done, but this, I included a layout that works. Now, one of the things that I brought up is, for example, the first floor units in the front have bedrooms facing the street, which is obviously not ideal. If we lower the building from 18 inches to 8 inches, then we could have a much lower incline that's needed for the first floor wheelchair accessible apartments, which allows the layout to change a little bit in a way that allows the bedrooms to be facing the side instead of facing the street.
I was under the intent, it is your intent to make the first floor all handicap
Yes.
accessible units, correct?
Yes.
Adaptable units?
100% handicap accessible,
That
adaptable.
was your intent. All
And
right.
my intent is to have, hopefully, you grant me the 8 inches of it, a shallow enough ramp that it's barely noticeable.
What does the code say about the availability of handicap parking for living situation that has the apartments to accommodate?
With 4 units, the zoning code does not require it. I don't know that there's a requirement in the building code. We can double check that. Typically, we would look for one to be located either on site or if there is an existing one within close proximity. The form-based code used to have a section in it that said if you have over 4 units of housing, you had to provide for a handicap parking space, or there had to be one in close proximity. That language was changed and removed from the zoning code. So that is no longer a requirement.
Right.
One thing we did talk about, with, Mr. Herzig is the survey for the property was done after the plans were created and submitted. So the survey has shown that, where the property lines actually are, were not where, Mr. Herzig originally thought they were. There's a little bit, so he's gonna be required to resubmit his drawings to show, that, and also to provide, he's looking for a dooryard, what we call a dooryard frontage type. In the new code, as you're all well aware, it now has architectural standards. The old code did not. So, he has to comply with one of the building frontage types that are allowed for a multiplex to take place. And so that's gonna be another adjustment that he'll have to make on his end and show in a final plan. Obviously, you have all seen all of the public comment that came through regarding parking and density and just form, basic form of the structure being in the public's view, not consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. Couple things I might ask you to think about. Obviously, the one question is whether or not you will call a public hearing on this project. It's not required by code, so you can set one. If the board feels that you want to hold a public hearing, we could schedule that this evening for next month. But I would say that a couple things should happen before a public hearing takes place. Obviously, the management plan that Wayne had mentioned earlier would be something I would want to have Mr. Herzig submit for reviewing and at least for review and consideration. I know that he has done some parking review of the neighborhood, but that's showing what parking is there. But I think that a little bit more detail needs to be looked at in terms of utilization and availability. You know, what's available is really the question, not that a street can accommodate 10 cars, but how many of those spaces are effectively available for another use, okay? So I think that work needs to be developed more.
Would that be done by an actual study rather than just kind of the abstract going out and looking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, I mean, I would recommend that you require that, formal study. You might want to think about alternatives. I don't know how the board feels about the density, the scale, and this project, but do you think requesting a minimum of, a couple alternatives to be looked at, and not full-blown plans, but maybe some concept alternatives might be something to consider. And then the last thing, like you have done in many other circumstances, is to look at visual simulations and ask for the simulation. You just did it recently with Elizabeth, you did it with Frog Alley, where they put together a simulation of what the new building looks like in the context of the street. And you might want to request that as well. So those are a couple things I would, off the top of my head, recommend before a public hearing is scheduled. So I don't know, members may have their own thoughts.
Historically, for larger projects, the board has asked the applicants to submit, if you have a plan B, just in case, the board doesn't feel warm and fuzzy about a project. If it goes to a public hearing, which I'm going to ask the board to go ahead with a public hearing tonight, because like you said in the beginning, you've got some concerned neighbors, and for this project, I think that they deserve to be heard. We're not trying to discourage you from this. This is not something that we don't ask, of other applicants. So I think that's a good idea to have a plan B or a plan C, just in case, you're not getting a warm reception from us about the original concept, and, public comment will also allow you to see what's, maybe see alternatives to what your first proposal is based on, public comment and comments from the board as well. So, I mean, this is our really like our introduction to this project. And I'm sure that the board will have questions on subsequent meetings too. So again, I don't want you to walk away from here tonight thinking that we're trying to discourage you. In fact, I'll be happy to see something like this happen there. Let's just, again, try to make this the best project that we can that satisfies, everybody. So, and meets your needs as well. So I want you to know that. So, but I do believe that a plan B would be in order, for this. So I said, I don't know how the rest of the.
I'm gonna ask this question. Not to go for the major wave, like we decided to go for the 18 inches and not come to us for the 8. Does this move forward with or without us at that point?
No, we would still have to.
Need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Jim.
That's just one component of the
Yeah.
site.
It just doesn't have any major waivers on that.
Right.
I think having a variety of options to see visually will help. I think it will also help with maybe some of the questions that the public is asking, especially the residential neighbors that have lived in this neighborhood and are experiencing, you know, their own daily parking routine. I know that all over Kingston it is, you know, definitely something that is a constant thing that we see, but I think that it will help. Having options would be great, and definitely having a plan B, and then definitely, I agree with you, Lane, having a public hearing, I think is important.
Stephen, Jim.
I'm the liaison, the council liaison to Edison. Yeah, can you clarify what you mean by plan B or plan C? Do you mean like a 6-unit instead of 12-unit?
It could be, it could be a reduction in the amount of the, you know, the size of the units, which lowers it from 12 to something else. You know,
Possibly.
it could encompasses the area, so, yeah. And it could be, you know, based on our comments, public comment, you know, giving him, you know, another look at, oh, maybe I should have considered that, or, you know, so, yeah, the project could change with the plan.
I do want to mention, which really should be mentioned at the public hearing, that Furnace Street as it is right now is sort of primed to go through a transformation. At this point, it's one of the few blocks in a larger area that's still stuck in, it still has its original industrial flavor some 100 years ago that is probably going to become a lot more residential over the next couple of years. And, you know, we still have the opportunity to shape the direction of the residential look that it will become.
I would also add that I know that some of the comment, identified the alleyway in the rear, of the property and, the applicant has had some extensive title work done and research, and that alleyway is not being used or considered in this application as access to the rear. So I just want that to be clear.
So when we're considering a major waiver to lower the ground floor, can you talk about the intent of why does the code want 18? Just so we can know what the intent of the code was there to when we're considering doing.
Really, it was just really to create more of a residential, like if you're commercial, you can be at grade. And for residential uses, it's 18 inches, so that you have like a step or a porch, like kind of entryway versus an at grade entryway. That's really the difference.
So, and we've done that on Ratty Street, right, was one, and Foxhole Avenue by Prince Street was another one. Didn't we change the alter, allow the?
I think Enright Street went higher, right?
Well, that was first floor height.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the height of the first floor. That was from the floor to ceiling height. We lowered that. Right. Which has since been lowered in the.
The previous project that we had in front of us for this property, how many units was it? I know they were gonna utilize, it was 4. So the initial proposal was for 4, and now this is now 12 units.
Right.
But
that
months
was-
ago,
It was an adaptive reuse of the
Space,
of the
the
current
existing
building.
space.
Right.
Yep.
But
this building would potentially double the area that would be built up, and it would turn into 3 floors instead of 2 floors. So it would substantially grow the interior space.
Do you want to really delve into all this right now, or do you want to?
I mean, we can give him the staff notes that we
Okay.
developed. We'll do that. And then we can just, move forward.
As far as having a public hearing in this, I've already expressed my willingness to do so, and then you have as well. How does the rest of the board, everybody else is in agreement with that? So, okay, do we need an official vote on that?
Well, yeah, we will, but I mean, do you, I had made the statements of what I feel should be submitted prior to a public hearing being scheduled. I need to know if you agree with those, if you have other things, if you don't agree with them, because that's important information to have.
Yeah, so I mean, but, I know folks have comments that have been submitted already. If we open the public hearing,
Those comments are still on the record.
Those comments are still there. what you're looking to require as part of that will still be in play, then, right? I mean, that's not, what you're gonna ask of the applicant.
Well, the board has.
Yeah, what you're recommending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if we move forward to have the public hearing opening at next month's meeting,
What I'm saying is I think that information should be available before we schedule the public hearing. So he has to, if he can get it together
okay,
and put it in, get it to us.
so
Oh,
we can word this based on your recommendation when we should open the public hearing.
Yeah,
I think-
Essentially, I think we'd like to see a full presentation first. Maybe it'll answer some of the questions that people have, and then open it up for public hearing.
And that would include like finalized floor plans, because I think right now, the floor plans you have there, you said they just kind of work, but they're gonna
I was
change.
under the impression that the planning board is not needs to final floor plans, but it's approximately that.
I think with a waiver considering, it probably would be nice because with having the spaces on the lower floor, needing the waiver or the accommodating of the, any kind of special needs that the tenant would have, I think that that's what makes it different.
And we can dictate how long the public hearing stays open too, so it's not like one meeting and it's done. Okay, if we can, it can remain open, so.
Yeah,
So you're just saying the waiver would alter, it would allow you to put the bedrooms off the street, which is something we definitely would want.
the waiver will make it set up, will make the layout much better. Yeah, if you guys could just give me the waiver right now, once, some sort of confirmation, I got the waiver, and it'll allow me to have a better vision in how I could continue planning this
I
project.
think we would have to see both sets of layouts to determine whether or not we were even comfortable moving forward on the layout, or, moving
the
forward
waiver.
on the waiver.
So the waiver really gives a much better, it gives a whole different advantage, nothing to do with the layout. That's the main reason why I'm requesting the waiver, and that, it just makes the ramps less steep. The handicap ramps are gonna be pretty steep and makes it less steep.
Because the project was already initially proposed in one aspect, I think that is kind of, I'm only speaking for myself, but it feels like something that's completely new, and it is. So unfortunately, I think that I don't feel comfortable like moving along with how I would feel about that, just because I have to look at it as like entirely new, and especially because at the first round, it didn't have as much public input, and this one has a tremendous amount. So I think that that gives me the indication that we need to like pace it out a little bit.
And our comments tonight don't mean that, does not indicate that we are against a waiver. It's just that we need more information and,
I understand, I
Yeah.
understand.
so.
That makes sense. I'm ready for public hearing.
Yeah.
Well, I want more information about, you said I would like to see multiple different ideas of what I would potentially propose. I mean, I could propose anything, I could propose single family home also, but obviously, that's not what I'm going for. So what type of proposals, do you want to see?
Well, is there, the scope, the size of the amount of units? I mean, if you could reduce that, how does that look?
Unit size.
Unit size, going from 12 to 10,
Right.
if that's, and again, this is, you're working with a budget and
Exactly.
economics that work for you.
Exactly.
Is this something that is in your wheelhouse that is doable? So, is it something that we can we get any off-street parking there with a different scale of the building?
Right.
These are things that you should think about with the plan B.
Right, so what's your practice, something that you guys would really get more of? There is, so it uses the alley that I'm still trying to work on, but it's the unknown alley that might be added to
I
that.
mean, we're not saying
Yeah,
get all 12 cars off the street.
yeah, obviously,
But, you know, like with Frog Alley, they did, their original proposal was no off-street parking. And over the course of a number of meetings, interaction with the board, they were able to get 4 cars off the street. So,
But to be fair, that's 4 cars for 42 units.
yeah, I know, but I mean, still, they were able to get, you know, I know it's a larger scale.
It's a
But-
different zone too. It's a different transit zone.
Yeah.
I mean, even 1 or 2 handicap spots, you know, something that if we have 4 handicap apartments, you know, having, you know, at least 1 or 2 dedicated handicap spots.
so there is a handicap spot just at the turn of the corner on Liberty Street that is, I mean, a few times that I passed it, have not been used, which is like one indication of a handicap spot in the area. I mean, I haven't done a traffic study, I can't guarantee it was never used. And, you know, 4 handicap spots don't mean 4 handicapped people. They, you know, I mean, 4 handicap, apartments don't mean 4 people that drive handicap cars. There could be many types of people that would need, you know, apartments in those stairs, such as, maybe, people that can't climb stairs, like elderly people, you know, a mother with a stroller.
There's a lot of problems, I think, with housing that we want to solve, right? I think that going from an original 4-unit plan to a 12-unit plan, I think that if you look at maybe if there are any consistencies with some of the feedback, I would pay attention to that initially, but also definitely if you had to change your project, I'm sure that was expensive, and try and figure out a way to consider the feedback, but also get the potential earned from it that you need to.
And that's the plan, to try to come up with, you know, the best balance that works. And so that, you know, it's very expensive to go, and, you know, the string together a project with profitable is not always, or that even Brick Stevens is not always that easy. So, you know, I have to just see some other options, but yeah, the smaller you get, the more difficult it is to the project. So,
See that you're receptive to, you know, a back and forth and the feedback, and we look forward to that in subsequent meetings when we have, you know.
I have full university, so I gotta be receptive. You know what I mean?
And I think that you would get a feel from our board here, like by now, that we like it, you know, you know, we're not there, so,
Exactly.
you know.
All right.
Okay,
Sounds like a plan.
Anything else, Chuck,
I have a question about the alley.
Andrew?
Well, I think,
Does that abut, is your property line abut right on that?
Yeah, so the alleyway actually has an interesting history on you about it. So all the properties, I mean, so this whole square block was used to be owned by 1 or 2 people, and it slowly got subdivided. That alleyway was never subdivided. It's still, as far as the deeds are concerned, it still seems to be owned by the original people. But it may have been issued, there are indications that it may have been issued to the city in meeting minutes, in the 1850s, and we just find those minutes. And,
It's a while.
yeah, that's how it is.
well, I feel like parking study would definitely be able to inform our decision, especially since so many of the public comment is about parking. And if you,
Yeah.
there's a parking study that does show there's a ton of parking inventory around there. I think that answers that question.
and in between meetings, you're gonna be in discussion, I would imagine, with staff. So they're very helpful down there, and, you know, to kind of put your hands around, you know, what we've been talking about tonight, so.
Listen, my goal is to work with all of you, and my goal is not to, you know, go behind the backs of any of my neighbors, you know, this is the public, and this is,
Yeah.
you know, I want to work with everybody.
Okay.
Good, so you're going to table it?
Yeah, motion to table and to open a public hearing.
Correct.
Yeah, so at this time,
Information is discussed, correct?
yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, so this time I'll make a motion that we table item number 5 and also authorize the opening of a public hearing for this. A second on that, second. Wait.
Then the information is available or just,
As you have recommended.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I want to be clear.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So Matt Gillis for the second on that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Herzig. We'll look
All right.
forward to seeing you again.
Yes,
All right?
all right.
Yeah. Take care, folks. Okay, item number 6, we're on an extension request, 206 and 208 Flatbush Avenue. Extension request for approved lot line deletion of the lands of Kingston Housing Authority, section block and lot. It's 48.74-3-24 and 48.74-3-19, secret determination, transect zone SD-NF, Ward 6, Kingston Housing Authority is the owner. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan DeJoy. I'm an attorney with the law firm Man Ryder McKay. We represent Kingston Housing Authority. As the board may recall, you granted approval back in July of last year for a lot line deletion, followed by an extension in January. And we're just about done with all the conditions. We have the map filed. The county's looking for one more form that we are finishing up, hopefully in the next week or so. So we're just asking for one more 90-day extension to get that taken care of.
We're actually, if you can give these to Lori,
Sure.
these are the 3 forms that she signed on her end.
Great, thank you.
So.
Seems pretty straightforward. I mean, we did it once before. Is anybody opposed or any questions?
No.
Okay, you're good? Anything else? Okay.
I'm fine.
So I will make a motion that we extend the lot line deletion, item number 6 for 90 days. Second by Matt Gillis.
Next, I speak to you, please.
But I don't see anything that says secret. And I know it said secret over here. You know, we need to still do it.
Just,
Okay.
just recognize this.
Because I wasn't actively thinking that, like, it's not in here, so maybe we'll. All right, so this is a type 2 action under secret, so no further review of the board is required for this. Having said that, the motion has been made, second by Matt Gillis. Any question or look at all? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. How long were you waiting tonight?
In 2 hours.
All right.
So you guys start at 7, so you're ahead of schedule, or at 6, so you're ahead of schedule.
Okay. Good. All right,
Some days are longer than others.
Yeah.
all right, thank
All
you.
right, thank you, everyone. Take care.
All right, what else we got? Anything?
Yeah. We're gonna pass this around. Let's take one. Take one, pass it around.
We almost got Brian to leave here now.
It's like a fun game.
We should have.
So like we discussed at the end of the meeting last month, and you're probably all aware, you've been following the news, media, that the governor, in her 2027 budget proposal is proposing, certain changes to some of the seeker, protocol. And, so we had a meeting, Sage, joined us and we discussed it. I know I've been sending out documentation, opportunities to listen to webinars, Zoom, attend Zoom meetings that discuss it. And so this is a drafted letter that we came up with. It would go to Senator Hinchy, Assemblywoman Tresha, the mayor, and the Alderwoman at large, Andrea Shout, the Common Council, from the planning board, if you agree with it. So I want you to take a couple minutes and just read it through. It really just, makes some, brings up some points of discussion, that, the proposed changes. So that any change to the secret law is in the best interest of Kingston. We wanted to make sure that certain issues were recognized, by those who are in the position to make decisions.
So as we're reading this, what this proposal says is, well, what the governor's proposing is that your other board would be handling.
No, the governor, well, but the governor, one of the things that the proposal does is it basically changes, projects that would be considered type 2. Right now, 3 units of development are type 2. It would increase the 3 units to 100 units as being a type 2 action. And as you are very well aware, dealing with seeker, type 2 actions do not require a seeker review or environmental review process. So, our code, our form-based code says that type 2 actions are minor site plans. So anything up to 100 units could theoretically be a minor site plan in the eyes of our form-based code, which means that it would not come to the planning board. It could potentially just be reviewed at an administrative level with, with the requisite agencies, which are the engineering department, building department, legal, corporation counsel, housing director, and planning. I have the ability to bump it up to a major project, a major site plan, with good cause. So, a project like you saw tonight, 12 units, obviously has a significant, impact to the immediate neighborhood. You don't know from project to project what those impacts might be. Something else that I think is important to understand is that when seeker is pursued under an unlisted action or type 1 action, the EAF mapper program is used, and that's a state program, and that brings up certain pertinent information, whether it's endangered species, whether it's brownfields contamination, wetlands, brings up a gamut of things that should be looked at, in addition to, some of your standard considerations and concerns, like, things of that nature. So just, impact on community services,
So this would,
impact on the schools, police,
Yeah.
fire.
so this would impact the coordinated review.
Yeah, good, yeah.
What about if it's up with you?
I mean, as a planning board, certainly as a planning board, you can always, call for and ask for certain studies to be done.
Depending on where it is, it's a archaeologically sensitive area, right? I mean, does going from 3 to 100 take that out of the
Well, one of the things, and I know we shared last month, the Conservation Advisory Council's recommendations with all of you. And we agreed, at least as a group, that the statement that they made regarding the definition of previously disturbed is too broad, and it needs further clarification. In a couple of the when Zoom meeting I went to, they had an attorney who was talking about these proposed changes. And they were asking about what is the definition of previously disturbed. And one thing that she said was that you could have a site that might be 5 acres in size, and it might have a small shed or farmhouse or whatever on it, building on it. And that entire site is considered previously disturbed. Is that?
Look at New York State.
Yeah, that's a little, so statements to that, So that's where, you know, they were saying that that definition really needs to be refined. You know, if it's a site like you have uptown where you have Frog Alley, that's, you know, 75% covered with asphalt pavement, has easements running through it, and has been previously occupied by various, you know, entities. That is, you know, more of a previously disturbed site. But in the other situation, you know, we think of Golden Hill, with that project site, you know, was a 20-acre site. 20 acres was not disturbed. There was probably maybe 4 acres disturbed on that site where the jail was and other outbuildings that they had up there. Does that make the whole 20 acres you know, I don't know. It's, you know, it's a subjective. But I think it's important to recognize some of these things, and that's why we wanted to point them out to you.
So this letter is asking for like very two specific things that they really focus in on definition of previously disturbed, and then also asking that the power be left with us to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think the local communities, you know, it's not a one size fit all type of,
Yeah.
you know,
I agree with
kind
you.
of a situation. I think the local communities should have the ability to define their own thresholds. And, you know, where Kingston may fall is going to be would be left up to the common council if that were to happen. But, you know, there would be the ability, I think, for more public input and more discussion about it rather than allowing, you know, this just blanketed type of threshold. So that, you know, those are things that we were talking about. I don't know if the other board members have anything else that you want to add to it. If you have comments on the draft that we presented, please let us know. You know, we'd like to get this.
No, for me, I appreciate the time that staff and the board members who participated in this, put in to formulate this. I know we felt some frustration that our voices aren't heard in general, and you know. But
You don't say.
I know, and I agree that something we need to have, you know, something has to come out of this body to weigh in on this. Well, I think that this hits it right on the head, so.
I could get it. Because the intention, I mean, at least what was like portrayed in the news sources was that there was some sort of gridlock and holdup with the way that it was existing. And so that this was going to eliminate some of those roadblocks. But at the same time, if we ever end up in a situation where something needs to be really dove into, there's a lot of reasons usually why. So only we would know to the uniqueness of our own city, what that would be. It's
And
worth
I
at least.
disagree that there's room for improvement in the seeker regulations. I think, you know, just like we said with the old zoning code, there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
You know, and so I don't disagree with taking a look at it.
And that's coming
I
from
just,
too, so.
I just, you know, I think that more, you know, more discussion needs to be had before the changes are made. Because I think there is some refinement needed and some more decisions to be looked at.
And I know we're in a climate now of all the way from the governor's office down is housing, more housing, no matter what the cost of the impact on a community. You know, we felt the frustration, as we said, with developing the form-based code. Yeah, I'm in agreement with this letter off.
Yeah, and there's probably other municipalities feeling the same way, so more voices. Yeah.
But again, thank you to those who have participated in drafting this thing. It's So do we need a motion to approve this letter?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve sending this letter off to the four individuals on the top of the title. Second by Matt Gillis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you kindly. That's all I have.
Good. Anybody else have anything else? I don't, you have anything, chief? Chuck with a motion to adjourn, second by Sage, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.